And thank you very much for making a date on the marketplace today. Let's now settle for a very fair story. Work on the bill to guide and regulate operations of advertising and marketing firms in the country have been completed and tabled before Cabinet for approval. The promulgation of this bill will help address many gaps in the industry while ensuring that advertisers become competitive in supporting economic growth. Minister-designate for Information, Kojo Nkrumah, disclosed this during a keynote address at the 12th edition of the Gong Gong Awards by the Advertising Association of Ghana.
There's also the threat to traditional local advertising channels from new technology outlets that are hosted abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the surest ways to tackle these challenges is by the promulgation of a single policy document to regulate the industry. This advertising bill has been spoken about for a while now. Indeed, last year, my predecessor and now Minister for Inner Cities, Dr. Mustafa Hamid, gave you government's assurances to see to it that work commences on the bill in the year 2018. We are in 2018, and I'm happy to inform you that work on the bill has now been completed and it has now been tabled before Cabinet. My task as incoming minister, by the grace of God, will be to liaise with the Trade Ministry that is shepherding the bill to complete whatever outstanding work there is on it so that Parliament can receive and consider it and hopefully pass it into law. It is our expectation that the bill, once passed, will outline the best practices in the advertising space and bind all individuals and organizations to apply the best standards. It's also our hope that the law will possibly address some of the challenges faced in the advertising community, as I have outlined earlier.
Let's move on. And founder and CEO of Leroy Group, Kate Kwate-Papafio, has underscored the essence of building and working effectively with teams in order to achieve corporate goals and objectives. She was sharing her thoughts at this year's Ghana Quality Business Awards over the weekend. 35 individuals and businesses were recognized for their exceptional performance in business at the Business Quality Awards, which was held in Accra. Kate Kwate-Papafio, who was honored as a business icon, noted there exists numerous business potential within Ghana and elsewhere in the sub-region yet to be tapped. She said this would be achieved to move the country forward if only emphasis is placed on teamwork.
You can't win without a team. The only way is to work with a team. To achieve is to work with a team. And also, there is so much potential in this country that all of us need to actually look at it, how we're going to tap into the potential that we have. And not only in Ghana, but also to look out the sub-region. Because out there's a lot of business that in the sub-region we can actually put hands together, we work as a team. It's actually really, I'm honored to be appointed as an icon in business. If you don't have challenges, then you are not moving. The question is, challenge comes for you to think and to elaborate what you have. And only challenges that will come on your way is actually just we have to be tough. Because at the end of the day, all over the world is difficult. The question is, how are we going to position ourselves to achieve what we have and the potential that we have in this country? We have a lot that we don't think that we do have, but I think that if we are to put our heads together and our minds together, we'll be able to actually move the country forward as a team.
Meanwhile, General Manager for Coconut Grove Hotel Sakumono, Roberta Tokonu, who also picked an award for being the best hospitality service company of the year, lamented the numerous taxes levied on the hospitality sector. She urged government to take a second look at the tariffs and streamline them to help reduce hotel rates.
We do pay a lot of taxes, as you rightly said, and I mean, we can talk about pay as you earn, talk about the tourism levy, and that's where, for me, my concern is we always charge 1% on every transaction, and every month, I mean, we have accrued a lot of revenue for the tourism sector. And if you look at the tourism sector in general in Ghana, it needs a lot of improvement. And my question is, where is the money going to? Are we using it for the right purposes? Are we using it as intended? I think the ministry needs to take a second look and then make sure that those funds that are being generated are actually going to the necessary infrastructure development that needs to come up from the tourism industry. There are so many taxes, so many levies that, I mean, because it is a structured industry, it's always slapped on you, you know. AMA comes with theirs. If you are in Tema, TMA comes with theirs. As I mentioned, tourism levy and all those metropolitan assemblies and EPA and all those people come for their monthly or yearly tariffs. So if there's a way those tariffs can be looked at a second time and it's being streamlined and bulked up, then we can have a better, you know, industry, because most times people say the hotels are expensive, but there are so many hidden charges, so many of them, and of course the company as a hotel cannot take up all those responsibilities. Sometimes it needs to trickle down to the customers, and that is how come it looks as if rates in Ghana are a bit higher.
Let's turn our attention now to the capital market, where players are raising issues or concerns with timing of recent regulatory measures introduced for the sector. President of the Ghana Securities Industry Association, Emmanuel Esiedu, disclosed this to Joy Business after the launch of the Capital Market Week celebrations for the sector. George Rafi was there and brings you more.
Week-long activities which began over the weekend is part of measures to engage the public to help deal with the challenges facing the sector. The celebrations would focus on improving upon corporate governance in the sector. Speaking to Joy Business after the formal press launch, President of the Ghana Securities Industry Association, Emmanuel Esiedu, says current challenges facing the sector gives credence to focus on corporate governance issues. He, however, describes the timing for the introduction of the recent regulatory measures as not favorable.
Are the reforms necessary? Yes, they are. So yes, we get the sense that and other people might think otherwise, but we get the sense that these reforms are required. What we need to be careful about is the implementation. And let me just paint this picture. You have a banking sector that has just gone through a cleanup. And so you have a lot of investment firms and investors who have had their funds locked up in some of the banks that have failed. And then you have a regulator on the investment side, the capital market, who's saying, unwind your guaranteed positions. That could create a perfect storm of liquidity issues if that implementation is done now. So what I would have suggested is a more gradual implementation of these reforms, and so that you don't have two core financial pillars in the economy going into challenges at the same time.
But Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Paul Abebio, disagrees. He tells Joy Business these measures are needed now to improve upon investor confidence.
In the same way, we've also come to meet a certain marketplace. Some of those changes are overdue. So really, in making those changes, we actually and you have to balance it. And unfortunately, this is also occurring when you have a banking situation. And that's what problem is. One might say that they are interrelated, because you can't have a banking sector which will not impact your other financial institutions, which will also not impact your real sector. So one of the things I have been saying is that the situation in the banking sector now is actually reflecting what's happening in the real economy maybe 4 years ago. Because when you have businesses defaulting on their loans, you have your NPLs rising. It's going to affect certain financial institutions who lend to those entities.
For some industry players, it is believed that these engagements are critical to help deal with market confidence issues.
All right, so this year's Capital Market Week has been launched on the theme Corporate Governance and Growth. Is there a correlation? Now, join me in the studio now to tell us more about this week and also the activities outlined for the week is Executive Secretary of the Ghana Securities Industry Association, Marian Jani. Marian, good afternoon. Welcome to the market, please.
Good afternoon.
All right,
Thank you for having
why
us.
do we have to celebrate in the first place, a Capital Market Week? What exactly is it, and why the theme for this year?
Okay. The Ghana Securities Industry Association is an association of firms regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Okay.
Okay. So the association is celebrating the 3rd edition of the Capital Markets Week. And we believe that celebrating the Capital Market Week affords us opportunity to create awareness on investor education within the market on investing. Now the theme is the role of good corporate governance in the transformation of Ghana's capital markets. Well, looking or giving the current upsets within the financial market, we feel that corporate governance is one of the issues that.
But is there really a correlation between corporate governance and the capital markets?
Well, the industries that operate behind the scenes, and therefore you need good corporate governance within these firms. That's one of the issues that have been raised. But then we realized that good corporate governance played a role in some of these market issues, and therefore we think that focusing on this within our week would afford us the opportunity to come together with regulators and both market players to find lasting solutions and to draw attention to the role of corporate governance.
All right. So what are some of the activities outlined for the celebration of this week?
Okay, we ushered in the week with a walk on the 20th. This morning we had a media launch. And on Wednesday we have a capital market seminar where we would have policymakers, we would have regulators, we would have other key financial players within the market to deliberate on topical issues within our industry. And would have the Honorable Finance Minister being the special guest.
All right, so for the benefit of those who don't know so much about investments, what are the main investment tools in Ghana or opportunities in Ghana opened to the investing public? Okay,
so the main products, you could talk about stocks, and you could talk about mutual funds, which is collective investment schemes.
These are quite technical jargon. Maybe a little breakdown will help those people.
Okay, so when you're looking at stocks, you're looking at shares on which would be tradable on the stock exchange. The ones that you could buy into directly are GCB, GOIL, and most recently MTN.
Are they the same as equities? When we say stocks, equities?
We have, so we have the stocks, the fixed income products, and then we have the mutual funds as well. And so with the fixed income products, you have bonds and then the government treasuries. With the bonds, it could be 2 to 3 years. And with the treasuries, you have 91 days, 182 days, and the like. So those are some of the tradable instruments that you could go through using the investment companies.
What would be your advice to a prospective investor, a new investor who want to, do some investments on the capital markets?
Well, I think you should look at the track record of the company. You should look at past returns. Have they been able to sustain the returns they're giving? And you should look at the expertise of the fund managers as well in that. And you should also look at the risks, because once you move away from the when you look at the government treasuries, currently it's 13.3% for the T-bills. So once you're looking at something further away from that, then it means you have an issue as well with your...
Well, now, you belong to the capital markets. I believe you've been following recent developments, on the markets. Now, let me take this from you. I mean, the capital requirements that is coming up, do you really support an increase, and does it really regulate the market, capital requirements?
Well, in principle, we do agree that the minimum thresholds should be raised.
Just but like then the banks?
Exactly. But then you're looking at, it's the optimum figure that we are looking at that market players had an issue with, because the bar was raised so high, and we feel, as an industry, we feel that we should start gradually at a process, and then we move up. So currently, the SEC is talking about 2.5. million
for
from,
all players,
from 100.
or we're going to have this.
We'll have different
Okay, figures.
So
for
2.5 is for the fund managers.
Fund managers.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
Right.
All right. So what exactly do we have to know again for this capital markets week?
Well,
finally,
apart from the seminar, we have a tertiary debate going on. It is part of the GSI's efforts to increase investor education awareness. It's a capital market tertiary debate amongst 6 business schools, and it's happening at the RS and Megashi Hall at the University of Ghana. It's going to be a battle of minds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Many thanks for your company, Madam Marianne Jani is the Executive Secretary of the Ghana Securities and Exchange Industry Association. Exactly. And of course, the Capital Markets Week is launched. You can take part in any of the activities outlined for the week. Now, away from that, the Tema Oil Refinery has evicted about 90 tanker and truck drivers who used the area close to the company's pipelines as parking space before lifting petroleum products out of the refinery. An assessment carried out by TOR's Anti-Fire and Explosion Campaign team revealed the use of fire by drivers of the trucks and tankers, which served as a recipe for disaster. The eviction exercise was carried out with assistance from the police and other security agencies.
Tema Oil Refinery has since last year been engaging the drivers on the need to vacate the area to forestall any possible explosion. Crude oil has been the refinery's main raw material for production and is mostly imported from Nigeria and international sources and transferred through pipelines. After taking delivery of the crude oil, it is stored in tanks for processing into various finished products for consumption. Therefore, any illegal activity close to these pipelines pose a threat to humans and the infrastructure as well. Public Affairs Manager for TOR, Dr. Kinsley Nchibwesiako, says the area is being barricaded to prevent a return of these activities.
We first started with a sensitization exercise. We came to tell them about the dangers of their presence here and the dangers of the activities like fuel siphoning and all those things that they were engaging in. So we gave them up to today, Saturday, that if we came here and we found any truck, we were going to tow it away, and that they were also going to face sanctions. Fortunately for us, they had us in good years, and when we came here, about 99% of the BRVs that had parked there had voluntarily evicted or evacuated. We also had the police coming here to support us. So we had to carry out this exercise to protect lives and property and, to ensure that there won't be any explosion or fire outbreak because our pipelines are buried in the ground where they had parked their bulk road vehicles.
Meanwhile, Dr. Nchibwesiako is urging the Tema Metropolitan Assembly to also evict drivers who occupy an area close to TOR but currently falling under the TMA's jurisdiction.
The other side of it, the city authorities are also responsible for the other side of the road. TOR has right of way on this side simply because our pipelines are buried, here, like I said. But the other side of it, is the responsibility of the city authorities, and we know that in due course they will also carry out eviction or evacuation exercise because activities across the street from here is also equally dangerous, because like I said earlier, if there's any leakage you won't be able to detect it or smell it, and before you realize it comes into contact with naked fire and there's explosion, something we are working tirelessly to avoid. So here at TOR, safety means a lot to us, and we carry out activities, in a safe and environmentally friendly manner. That is why the TOR Anti-Fire and Explosion team had to embark on this exercise to ensure that we evicted all these drivers from here.
The Tema Oil Refinery is currently waiting to take delivery of crude to resume operations.
Let's turn to aviation now. And the Ghana Airports Company Limited says it has saved the nation millions of Ghana cedis after renegotiating interest on the $400 million loan from 8% to 5%. The airport company took a total of $400 million from the African Development Bank and partners for the renovation of regional airports as well as the construction of the Kotoka Terminal 3, International Terminal 3. Now, speaking to Joy Business, Managing Director of the Ghana Airports Company Limited, John Atefa, says the company has begun repayment of the facility.
In them, there's not been any default in payment. We have also been able to negotiate with our lenders to bring down the interest rate. We started off with an interest rate of 8%. We've been able to negotiate with them, and they've brought it down to 5.5%. I think that's a very massive savings for us, and that should make us able to breathe more easily.
So, since you said you've started payment, about what percentage have we collected so far?
I think we've made about 4 quarterly payments. Remember, we took the loan is in 2 parts. There's a commercial bit from commercial banks, and there's the other bit from the development finance institutions. For those from the commercial banks, we've started repayments, and every quarter we pay a certain amount. We paid, I think for them, the loan we took from the commercial banks was 190 million, 194, and from the development finance institutions, 205. So we've started repaying. I think now we are left with about 150 million more to pay. And we are good. We are looking good for the commercial banks. The DFIs, we had a grace period, which hasn't lapsed. And for them also, we have 13, 15 years for repayment. I think those are relatively easy for us to deal with.
Now, before we go, the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, ICU, is questioning government's silence on Social Security and National Insurance Trust contribution by NAPCO beneficiaries. The concern comes just after President Akufo-Addo ushered in 100,000 recruits into the scheme last Wednesday. Deputy General Secretary in charge of operations, Morgan Ayawene, wants government to take a second look at the potential breach of the law. He was speaking at the annual general meeting of the Ashanti Regional Chapter of the ICU in Kumasi. Real Prince appears report in subsequent bulletins. And on that note, to wrap up this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace, my name is Emmanuel Abuaji. We are free. Have a good afternoon.